All right, so you probably clicked on the video, looking at the thumbnail or the title, wondering how it's even possible for a brand new chess player, a person who just learned how the pieces move 4 days ago, not even, won a game against a 2300 rated person on chess. How? All right, so you're probably a little skeptical as to me being new since I beat a 2300 rated player in chess. So I'm going to give you some proof right here. Okay, I made the account on August 26th. Was it? Yeah, August 26th. Okay, I've had a total of 6 games played ever in my entire life. I maybe have played chess IRL with some friends jokingly because I didn't know how to play and they were making fun of me. That kind of game. So, like, I didn't actually play until pretty much today. Or tonight, I should say. So, there's your proof. So, we can actually get into the game. All right, so here we are at the analysis of the infamous game with dabluelizzard. Okay, this person randomly sent me an invite to a game of Blitz, 5-minute timer. I don't really know how to call it because I'm brand new to this game. I don't know much about this game. But, yeah, I assumed he knew I was streaming because otherwise how would he know my username, blah, blah, blah. Later, I'll reveal to you guys the DMs between me and dabluelizzard and how he found me and whatever. So, as we go on, and I'm going to try to explain this the best I can, it's going to be bad. I'm just letting you guys know. So don't criticize me too hard. All right, so I give the classic D4 start. After that, he goes there. What is that, G6? I'm not going to call out every time, but I put my knight there to cover my pawn just in case he wants to attack it with his bishop. So I obviously move my other knight up because I'm like, why not? It's better, good positioning. He moves his pawn there, which really confuses me because I was like, does he really want me to take that? So I got scared. So randomly, I put my bishop at, E3. So I'm like, I'll just cover the pawn just in case he wants to take it because I assumed that he wanted me to put my pawn out of position for some sort of strategy that he had in mind, which I guess wasn't the case, but I don't know, maybe he was just baiting that anyway. Like he wanted to take it anyway. Either way, it was a win for him. So then I took his pawn, obviously. His bishop took my bishop. My knight took his bishop. I'm like, all right, that's a pretty fair trade. So he moves his knight up. I move my pawn up to the middle here, only because I'm like, well, I don't really need to push up the left. I don't really need to push up the right now. I kind of want more control over the middle because I remember every YouTube video that I watched before I start playing chess said get control over the middle. That's like the best place to be. So I was like, all right, get control of the middle. But I can't go here, obviously, because the knight will just take my pawn. So I move up. He castles, which was kind of like, it's kind of an early castle. I was like, maybe I should do the same thing. So I move my bishop here, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll castle too. So he moves his pawn there. I castle, which the game doesn't like. So then he moves his knight up into position, his other knight. I capture it because I'm like, well, this knight has already taken 2 things, so it's probably worth it for me to get 2 things out of it. I don't think I'll get a better trade than that later on in the game. So I felt like that was the best trade in my opinion. I move my pawn up to here to kind of pressure this pawn and still gain control of the middle of the map. The game wanted me to move my queen here. I don't know why, but I guess it's just to keep pressure in this area. But we'll keep going. He moves his queen to, what is that, B6. And I'm like, okay, well, I should probably put pressure onto that. That queen, so he can't take the pawn as easily. So it's a better trade for me if he takes the pawn and I take his queen. Go ahead, take it, pussy. So then he moves his other pawn up too, and I'm like, all right, well I should probably move my pawn up to pressure that queen. So that's exactly what I do. And then he moves his pawn up even further, and I'm like, all right, that's a free take, so I take that. He moves his rook here, I guess to pressure my pawn, but my queen is already there to protect it if he wants to take my pawn. So then I move this up even further to challenge the queen. Obviously the queen either has to move back or go there. So he takes my pawn, and I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now? Then I realize I have my bishop, and I'll just pressure this whole diagonal, this long diagonal. And I felt like that was the best play after he moved his queen. I don't know. I'm not good at this game. Don't ridicule me. So then he takes my queen here, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is a fair trade. I'll take his queen. He takes my rook, and then I take his rook. So ultimately fair trade. At least that's how I saw it. At this point, I'm pretty sure I said in the game, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing, dude. I'll probably play that clip. If not, it's probably because I have copyrighted music playing. So if it's gone in the video, you know why. So then I'm like, all right, well, it's an open pawn that I can take with my bishop, so I do that. He moves his rook here to pressure this pawn, I would assume. So I move this up to pressure that to get better positioning. But I guess the better play here was to fork the check and the bishop. But honestly, the reason I didn't do that first was because I thought I want this to be in a better position, and I also wanted his rook to take this so that I could check his king and take his bishop without being pressured of my rook being taken right after. Because if he takes that and I take this, it's a fair trade. It's a better trade for me. Or at least that's what I thought at the time. So then he does that. He does exactly what I thought he was going to do. And then instead of taking the pawn here, he should have taken the pawn, I guess. I don't know. So I move my rook up there. I fork him, put him in check. Take his bishop, obviously. He moves the king. He moves his bishop in front of his pawn at g4. Then I move my bishop here, which is a complete blunder because I didn't realize the knight was right here, so he just takes that right away instantly. Me being the newbie player, obviously he takes advantage of the blunders that I do. I move my rook into the corner because I'm like, I'll just take this pawn. It'll be free anyway. And there's not much else he can do. So he moves his knight up to pressure my king into check. So I'm like, all right, I'll just move to the left once. And he moves his rook to the left to pressure my knight. And I'm like, well, there's not much I can do about that. So I'll put my my rook on b7. What is that? Yeah, b7. So that I can. I don't know why I did that actually. Who knows? All right, so he takes my knight, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do here. So I move my rook here, which the game thinks is a blunder. But my thought process was he's threatening to take the pawn right below it, and there's nothing stopping him. And there's nothing stopping him from taking my rook here, which I didn't think of. So then he moves to the left, which threw me off. I was like, why didn't he take my rook? He probably should have. But then I realized it's probably because he wanted to pressure my pawn from not becoming a queen or what other thing I want to make it. So then I move it up. So it's protected by the rook, right? Then he moves his to a1 to put me in check. I'm like, all right, I'll just go diagonally. Then he moves his rook into check again. And I'm like, all right, I'll just take his knight. And then he moves his pawn up to put me in check again. And I'm like, all right, I'll just take his pawn. And at this point, I was kind of questioning what he was doing. I was like, I don't really see the goal in that. He moves his rook, puts me in check once more. Then I move down. He moves all the way to the left to cover this, so I don't get another queen. And I almost moved this to a8 and almost made it a queen without realizing that he could have easily just taken it as soon as I made it a queen. So I didn't do that, thankfully. Move my pawn up here because I'm like, well, I don't want my king to be in this position at all because it's completely in the wide open. So I'm like, all right, I'll just move this up. I'll go diagonally down because I thought I knew he was going to do that, or I predicted he was going to do that, I guess. So now my king is pretty much safe, right? He can go either way. The rook can't go diagonally or jump over pieces. So I start moving my other pawn up to get to the other side. I'm like, all right, he left his pawn wide open. At this point, it's pretty much free game for me. We just keep going. He takes my pawn, obviously. I move my rook down, put him in check. Move my pawn up so I can start pushing up forward. I'm like, I'll just sacrifice that pawn, get his pawn. I'm one pawn up, or two pawns up, actually. What does he do here? He takes my pawn. I'm like, all right, I'll just take your rook. And then he takes my rook. And at this point, it's just a free game because he can't catch up to my pawn here. I make it a queen. Starts running. And at this point, it's just me chasing him And right here, I kind of blunder my my pawn because I make it. This is a pawn. I make it into a rook. I meant to make it into a queen. And then on top of that, I put it in the corner right next to the king. So he just takes that right away, which I kind of just threw away, which is stupid. Obviously, you can tell I am not good at this game. This is literally my 6th game ever played. Okay, so I put him in check. And then I just start moving around randomly because I'm like, all right, well, I got to corner him eventually. So then we get to this point right here, and that's where I win. All right, so after I won, I was in shock. Okay, I won. I didn't realize it was even possible for me to win before that. So I was just kind of in this woo. And then afterwards, someone in chat was like, that's impressive as heck. And I was like, oh. I'm like really confused as what the fuck just happened. Did I actually just beat that guy? And then it kind of hit me. I was like, did I actually just beat a 2300? All right, so after all was said and done with the game between me and dabluelizzard, I did some digging because I was really confused as to how I actually won that game against a 2300 rated player. All right, so after some digging, I looked into his account, and it turns out his account was made on the same day mine was, August 26th, 2021. So after I figured that out, I realized I was like, there's no way it's possible for a regular player to get to 2330 rating in the span of 5 days. So I looked at his match history. He played 113 matches of chess within the last 5 days, which is a lot of fucking chess. A lot. So then after that, I noticed there were different game modes of chess that he played, and I didn't even know there were different game modes of chess. So I looked it up. So after a quick Google search on the interwebs, I found this. Live chess apparently has 3 different ratings based on different time controls. Bullet rating for games under 3 minutes, blitz rating for games over 3 minutes but under 10 minutes, rapid rating for games 10 minutes or longer. Now, I'm not intelligent enough to understand what any of that means, but I will say, now we know. After figuring out what the difference of game modes mean, I kind of came to the conclusion that I don't know whether or not he could be cheating. He could just be really, really good, and this is his Smurf account that he just made 5 days ago. Happens to be on the same day I made my account. But after that, I DM'd him, and I hit him with the, bro, who are you? And then he said, let's rematch. And I said, how'd you find me, though? And he said, friend told me you were streaming, so that solves that. And then I said, also, how is your account 5 days old, but you're already 2330 rated? And he said, I like to challenge streamers to farm points because they're usually more distracted. I'm really mad I lost to you. Can you give me a rematch? Because I'm really good and I've been playing for over 10 years. I play tournaments. So at this point, I'm like, what? Excuse me? First of all, this guy's a dickhead for challenging streamers because they're more distracted, I guess. He also probably figured I'm brand new, so it's just easy up ratings. So whatever. I guess this guy's kind of a dick for that. So then after that, I messaged 2330 rating in 5 days, though. That's crazy. Like, you must be cracked at chess or something, because I was so confused as to how that was even fathomable. And he was like, let's get a game going. We can talk and chat. And I'm like, what? Why would I verse you again? This is my 6th game of chess ever. Why would I verse you again, bro? I just won. This is my peak. I'm never going to get better than this, probably. Like, I'm never going to beat someone better than you. Come on now. Let's be realistic here. So then I messaged him, I thought you would let me win, to be honest. That was literally my 6th chess game I've ever played in my entire life. I just started learning how the pieces move like 4 days ago. I'm like kind of playing with this guy at this point because I'm like really confused as to what's going on. And I go, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but obviously you're really good because you're rating, but I was just confused. This guy still could be cheating. He could be using a bot. I don't know. I'm just assuming he is really good because he said so. Whatever. I'm taking his word for it. If not, you guys can look into it in a YouTube video if you really want to. And maybe we'll do a rematch. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a sequel to this video. But anyway, he goes, I would never let you win. You got lucky, bro. I don't doubt that, bro. I do not doubt that at all. And then he said, when we play rematch then. He's like, he really wants this rematch. And I'm like, eventually, but I'm busy right now. He said, okay, fine. And then he said, I thought it was just a guaranteed win for me. Didn't take you serious at all. And that's why you don't underestimate your opponents, okay? That's why you don't underestimate them. Especially streamers who just started 5 days, learning how the pieces move 4 days ago. That's why, all right? I'm proof. So after everything's said and done, as I said in the last clip, it's probably going to be my peak in chess. I want to get good, but I don't know if I'll ever be that good. I have high hopes. Maybe one day we'll be as good as dabluelizzard or other players. We'll see. If you guys want to keep posted with that, go follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/therealmrdonut. This will probably be the end of the video. And yeah, go watch my other videos. I got other videos on here. And I'll see you guys in the next video, I guess, or on my stream. Peace.